Do you hate the thought of working past 55 or 60? Do you hate not being able to live the life you deserve today? Do you hate not knowing what your financial future looks like? It's time to stop doing what you hate. Here's your host, Mr. Harold Green.
Hello, everybody. This is Harold Green of Breakthrough Financial Group, and it is time to stop doing what you hate. I hope you are having a fantastic day today. I'm doing okay. It's kind of early, and I was up putting in some research, doing some studying, just trying to get myself ready to talk to you folks about what I'm about to talk to you about. Sorry for the word salad, but I made a switch, and I decided to change my show up a little bit, and I think I talked to you folks about that in my last show. And this show is primarily meant for people of faith, people who say they believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and that He is their personal Lord and Savior. Now, if that's not you, it doesn't mean you can't listen to the show. You can listen to the show. I just simply don't want you getting offended by anything that I say. And because this is primarily not meant for you, because you have a different way of thinking. It's like me going to Japan and yelling in English and getting mad, how come nobody can understand me? I'm speaking English. They don't speak your language. And so this language is meant for those who are believers, non-denominational believers. And if what I say resonate with you, you can, listen in, tune in, and share this with your friends of, like-minded faith, and, take it from there. So my audience is made up of two different people that are trying to get the money, people that are trying to keep the money. Today's show is for those who are trying to keep the money. And it's interesting because the show is about one thing, and that one thing is stewardship. Now, if you already got the money and you're trying to keep the money, then you fall right into this stewardship realm. So let's kick it off by talking about the real meaning of stewardship. So, are you ready? 1, 2, 3, let's get it. Now, the real meaning of stewardship is the conducting, supervising, or managing of something, especially the care or the careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. Stewardship of natural sources. Now get this. It says the careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. Now, this is really tricky. If you've made a lot of money, no one's entrusted anything to your care because you had to go out and hustle and scrape and struggle to get to where you're at. Now, if you inherited the money, that's a whole different ballgame. Yes, you fall under this realm of stewardship. But here's the challenge. It's hard to feel this way. It's hard to feel, stewardship is your responsibility when you work hard and earn what you have versus someone giving it to you. It's different. And I'm going to kick this off by talking about the Bible and giving you guys some scriptures to kind of back up what I'm talking about today. So this is where the giving debate comes from. In Malachi, the people were given the opportunity to overcome and achieve massive amounts of wealth and success. God was only asking that they give 10% out of their abundance and not their necessity. They had way more than enough, and 1/10 was nothing when they had way more than enough. He wasn't asking them to give their only cow. He wasn't asking them to give their only loaf of bread. He was only asking out of a small portion of what they already had. And I'm going to get into this a little bit more. Malachi was not about giving money to the church. That was part of it back then, but if you read carefully until the end, it was about the heart condition and whether or not the people would serve God or they would serve themselves. What do I mean by that? Well, if you read the whole thing, you can see why he got so upset, why he got so hot about it. Because they were giving him animals that were diseased, giving animals that were blind. Basically, they were giving God their junk. And that's why he got hot about it. It's like, after all I've done for you, you going to come up in here and give me some junk. And then he just goes on and he talks about the situation some more. Now, you have to understand, this is Old Testament. We are not under the Old Testament. This does not apply to us. We have a different testament. We have a different covenant. We have a different agreement. And I've talked about that. And I'll talk about that again somewhere down the road. But the situation is this: God saw the problem long before we did, so he had to issue an adjustment to that in Corinthians. Just like whenever he made man, he already saw for the beginning that we were suspect. So he sent his son to bail us out. So today in 2023, many of us have not fully understood all of this, and therefore we suffer tremendously. God talks about, may people perish for lack of knowledge, for what we don't know. So I want to give you some education today, and it's important. So when I was doing some research on the average non-denomination Christian income, it came in quite low compared to some of the other denominations and other people of faith. I believe they said the Jewish had the highest level of income. And the separation in all this was the education. People with a college degree on average earn more. So there's a big disconnect about this. And, I'll talk to you about this in another show. This has a lot to do with that God's going to work it out kind of mentality kind of thing. So I don't need to worry about that. What do I need a degree for? I got a job. God going to bless me, different things like that. But today, I want to take a look at what our foundation should be. And I'm going to start off in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10. And, you can write these down and then go back and take a look at them, because this is important to understand, who we are and why we are what we are. It says, verse 10 says, for we are God's own handiwork, his workmanship, recreated in Christ Jesus, born anew, that we may do those good works which God predestined, planned beforehand for us, taking paths which he prepared ahead of time, that we should walk in them, living the good life which he prearranged and made ready for us to live. So many people don't live the good life, and they make excuses as to why they don't live the good life. This does not say you should live the poor life or the broke life or, the hurt life or, the emotionally confused life. It says living the good life, which he already prearranged for us. And this is very important because, I'm going to kind of go into 2 Peter and talk to you about that too. 1:3 says, for his divine power, 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 3, for his divine power has bestowed upon us all things that are requisite and suited to life and godliness, through the full person knowledge of him who called us by and to his own glory and excellence virtue. It says all things. He's bestowed upon us all things, not one thing, not two things, but all things that we need, the prerequisites. Gives us everything through Christ. So the great mystery is this: if these things are true, and they are, why do so many people not yet walk in them or experience them? It goes back to how they really believe and the actions that they really take, right? A weak belief equals a weak faith, and a weak faith equals weak actions. Weak actions equal weak results, and weak results equals weak belief, and on. And he just caught in this low self-esteem, low faith, confidence, can't get it done, won't get it done. That's the great mystery. So then I talked about this in my last show, get the money, basically provide for yourself. So today's show is for those of you got this figured out, all right, for the most part. So, we want to talk about the practical side. So you're out there working, you're out there hustling, you're out there, doing everything you got to do. You're out there making a difference in the world. You stacking your chips, you got your bag full, whatever they say these days. I don't know. I'm just repeating stuff I hear my kids talking about. I'm old now, so I got to stay relevant. So I just kind of parrot what they say. So we want to talk about the practical side of it. So I want to give you guys a little bit of a hint into what I do. And I'm going to talk a little bit about investments because investments do carry the risk of loss, right? So before you invest, go do your due diligence, go do your research, make sure you understand your risk tolerance and different things like that. And don't act on anything that I say in this show. It's just for informational purposes only. Now you have something to go and research and go and talk to your people about. And then, because if you have people, you should. If you got money, you should have people, right? And if you don't have people, it's probably something going on there. And I want to talk to you about that. So click on my show notes, get on my schedule, and let's talk about why you don't have people, because it's important for you to have people. So we want to focus on three main areas that hinder your stewardship or rate of keep. Number one is taxes, federal taxes, state taxes, local taxes. Number two is interest payments, whether they're variable or fixed. And then the third is cash flow management, inflows, outflows, right? My program is built on that rapid retired financial planning process, right? Cash flow management, income generation, those are all important things. All right. So today I'm going to give you a little insight into how I personally handle each one. So the first one we're going to start off with taxes. And this is real simple. These are some real simple steps. And it's not going to be long and drawn out. So we pay some of our estimated taxes throughout the year, and then we invest the rest. Why do I do that? Prior to the end of the year, we look at what we paid, and then we figure out what's left prior to the middle of January of the next year, because that's the deadline. Why do I do this? I've looked at this for quite some time. And this is going to depend on your level of income. And you're going to have to talk to your tax professional because it's very important. If you don't pay your estimated taxes, there's a stiff penalty. And the more you owe, they just get worse and worse and worse. And so I think last year, we didn't pay all of our estimated taxes. There was some issue with our accounting firms and stuff like that. So we ended up saying, we're just going to wait and then pay it at the end of the year. Well, the IRS says, okay. All right, you should have paid it throughout the year or more of it. Then they sent me a bill for $8,000. That's okay. Do I like wasting $8,000 on penalties? No, I don't. And it's not because I can afford to, but there's a purpose of why I do that, right? And so here's what I'm truly after. If I invest on January 1st of 2023, and I cash out on January 2nd of 2024, my holding period is 1 year. I'm paying long-term capital gains instead of short-term capital gains. And now, of course, this depends on what I invest in, and that can be a humongous difference if I've invested well and I've earned well, because every year, depending on how well I invest, it puts me ahead. It puts me way ahead versus, if I took that same, let's call it $300,000. If I took that $300,000, paid all those estimated taxes, right, then I wouldn't be owing the penalty of $8,000. But if I took that same $300,000, I invested it, and I made trading options or whatever I do, 300% return, right? Isn't that enough to pay the tax and have some left over? Now, it depends on how well you invest. It depends on your strategy, right? Because investments do carry a risk of loss. You can lose the whole doggone thing if you do it wrong, right? So, however, here's the thing. Before you implement this kind of strategy, you got to talk it over with your tax person, right? And because they got to estimate any potential penalties you got to pay on the estimated taxes in the quarter that they're due, right? So if you can stomach a small penalty of $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 based on how you got your money invested, it might make sense, right? Now, here's another thing, interest, right? What if you took that same $300,000 and you set it on interest, especially now with rates being as high as they are? There might be a penalty for that, right? You got to calculate it out and see what the savings is. The whole thing about this is efficiency, right? Are you being as efficient as you can in your finances? Are you being a good steward, or are you following norms that people have put out there and told you this is what you should do? Because if you don't, this is what's going to happen to you. Now, interest. You can look at this one or two ways. You can use it and leverage to get ahead, or number two, set up your own banking system to keep the interest in-house. You can do this one or two ways. And so I kind of use both of them, right? And it just kind of depends on what you're thinking about and what your mindset is, right? So I'll just kind of walk you through my little strategy here. And I kind of wrote this out a little bit so I can talk to you with some common sense. So basically what I do is I use the leverage to grow my wealth, and I've set up my own banking system so that I can capture the interest that I would have paid to outside institutions. And I do this through dividend paying whole life insurance. And, a lot of people look at that and say, that's cost. That money could have been invested. I hear that stuff all the time. But, if you're just buying term insurance and then putting money in mutual funds, I don't know, man. We got to talk about that because I've looked at that and that don't make no sense. All right. So if you want to know more about that, those strategies, you can kind of click on them and then click on my show notes and then make an appointment. We can talk to you about that and then we can go from there. Cash flow management. Now, this is what really gets people into a lot of trouble. Cash flow management. That's the inflows and the outflows. A lot of people, they make so much money. They have a lot of it. They don't track inflows or outflows because they have enough, right? What do I need to balance the checkbook for? I had a good friend of mine. I'm not going to call him out on it, but he's like, yeah, dude, we got so much money. Like, I don't need to balance the checkbook. We got enough. So as long as there's more in there at the end of the month and that came in, I'm good. I said, it doesn't work like that. Sometimes you could be losing efficiency. You could be losing money that you could be putting to work for you. It's just crazy. So you could be overpaying for things because you can afford it. I've been guilty of that a couple of different times. I parked at a big mall not too long ago. And so they had the VIP where they put your ride like right up front. So like when you come out, you don't have to stand in the long valet line, like waiting on people to get your car and go run for your car. And I was like, yo, hook me up with the VIP, right? It's $40. Okay. He said, or you can pay the 20 and we go like put your car somewhere and then we'll go get it for you. Right. And I'm like, okay, look at this long line of people here. So I'm like, I'm going to do the VIP. So we went upstairs, did some shopping. I did more shopping than my wife because I found some stuff I liked. She didn't find anything she liked, so I didn't buy anything. So came back downstairs with my bags and everything and saw that long line, went right up to the valet guy and said, here's my thing. He said, oh yeah, okay, here you go. Here's your car right here. Let me pull it out for you. I said, no need. We're just going to hop in and then go. So we just hopped in our car and we left. So the other day, my wife saw the bill on the credit card. She's like, $40 for VIP. What? We could have waited. I said, no, honey, it's hot out here. We're out here we was in Arizona because I drove to Arizona from Vegas just to, take care of some unfinished business. And it was interesting. So yes, I paid the $40 for VIP because I didn't want to waste my time. But what am I talking about here in all of this? The main key is this. You must have your heart in the right place because everything flows from there. That one thing alone determines the lens through which you see everything, right? So keep in mind that being a good steward over what you have worked so hard for, along with that which you have been blessed with, is the ultimate goal, right? Now, it's different because you can work hard and get stuff and then lose it. You can work hard and God bless you with a great family. You can lose it. Bless you with tremendous amounts of resources, then you lose it. And just for some side notes for you to go study, go read Proverbs chapter 21. It talks about things like that. So again, what I wanted to do was talk to you folks today about keeping the money, being good stewards. And so we're going to have a lot more of these shows about keeping the money, about getting the money, because it's all important, especially if you're a believer. You have to understand the purpose of it. You got to understand and make sure your heart is right. You got to understand and make sure your motives are right. Because we're going to talk about what happens to you as a wealthy believer, how difficult things can be for you. It's probably 10 times harder to be a wealthy believer than a wealthy non-believer, right? Because as a wealthy believer, man, we have a higher standard to live up to. We have a higher responsibility to live up to. And I just wanted to put that out there for you folks. So you want to know more about what I do and how I do it, click in the show notes, get on my calendar, make an appointment, and we can chat about it for a little bit and then see if there's any mutual interest. If there's anything I can do for you, great, I'll let you know. Because I'm only interested in taking on people that I can make a big difference for in their lives so that they can make a big difference in the world. So until next time, everybody, 1, 2, 3, let's get it.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.